Hello and welcome to Reverie True Crime. I'm your host, Paige. Are you a true crime advocate? Are you passionate about uncovering the truth and bringing justice to victims? Do you love the paranormal and spooky tales? Then you won't want to miss the True Crime and Paranormal Podcast Festival taking place in Austin, Texas from August 25th to 27th, 2023. This festival features panel discussions, workshops, and live podcasts with a special focus on ethics and advocacy in the true crime sphere. Get your attendee or attendee VIP tickets at truecrimepodcastfestival.com and get 15% off when you use the code REVERIE. Join us in Austin for an unforgettable experience. Don't miss out on the chance to connect with other advocates and take your passion for true crime and the paranormal to the next level. So book your attendee and or attendee VIP tickets at truecrimepodcastfestival.com. Use promo code REVERIE for 15% off and be a part of this amazing event. Special guests include Julie Murray, Tara Newell, and Collier Landry, to name a few. We hope to see you there. With that being said, let's get into today's episode. Paula Jean Welden was born on October 19, 1928. Her mother, Jean Douglas Welden, worked at Revere Copper and Brass Company and was originally from Stamford, Connecticut. Paula's father, William Archibald Welden, was a prominent industrial engineer, architect, and designer. William designed utensils, cocktail shakers, and many other household objects. Paula Jean's parents had 5 children altogether, and she was the eldest. She graduated from Stanford High School in 1945. The Bennington Banner described Paula like this: 18 years old, 5'5", 122 pounds, blonde hair cut into a long bob, blue eyes, fair complexion with much color, regular nose that was slightly turned up, cleft in chin, grayish scar on her left knee, vaccination mark on her right thigh, small scar above left eye under eyebrow, walks with a springy step, has erect carriage, which means the way someone carries their shoulders, back, and chest, basically good posture, and athletic build. Some of the things Paula Jean enjoyed in life were riding her bike, skating, going on hikes, camping, going swimming. She loved to square dance and play guitar. Paula went on to attend Bennington College in North Bennington, Vermont, and in 1946 she was a sophomore there, staying in a very old dorm called Dewey House, which is still standing today. There was a hiking trail a few miles away from the college called Long Trail, and Paula wanted to go hiking there. She asked some of her friends to go, but they all had things to do and couldn't. Paula decided that she would go on a little hiking venture by herself. During this time, it has been reported that she was not getting along with her father, and they were arguing a lot over her choices of work, her classes, and many other things. Paula's roommate, Elizabeth Johnson, thought she was depressed over all the arguing with her father about the value of her education, and he would even say Paula depended on Elizabeth way too much and needed to be more independent. Paula's father, William, did not care too much for his daughter being an art student. She loved watercolors, oils, pencil, and charcoal sketching. Paula would help a painter of murals, and she started making her own black and white illustrations. College students claimed they had seen her crying over a letter she received from her boyfriend right before Thanksgiving, and her mood had become really somber. Paula Jean was sleeping most of her days away. Her family and friends claimed she was whimsical, eccentric, and happy, with others noting that she was depressed a lot of the time. During Thanksgiving break, Paula lied to her parents about having a class to go to just so she wouldn't have to go home and interact with her father. Paula worked in the dining hall at Bennington College, and on December 1st, 1946, after her double shift, she went to her dorm. She told her roommate Elizabeth that she was going to go on a hike and started to get dressed for the trail. She wore clothes that were fine for the temperature it was outside at that time, but later it would get a lot colder. Paula likely figured she would be back to her dorm by then, though. She didn't pack any gear, extra clothes, or money because she said she was only going to hike for a few hours, if that. She was wearing a red parka that had a hood with white trimmed fur around it, blue jeans, and white topsider sneakers. She put on her small gold Elgin wristwatch that had a narrow black band. It was apparent from the lightweight clothes and sneakers she had on that she was not planning on staying out too late when it would get freezing cold and start to snow heavily. Paula was seen strolling down the driveway of the campus, and she found someone to give her a lift from the entryway to the college to State Route 9 by the Furnace Bridge. This is located between the downtown Bennington area and Woodford Hollow, a place that will come into the story a bit later. Lewis Knapp, a building contractor, saw Paula walking around 2:45 p.m. on December 1st and told her that he would give her a ride at least to his house, which was 2.5 miles away from the long trail, which she told him is where she was headed. His wife said this was accurate and that Lewis arrived home around 3:15 p.m., which was when she would cook dinner on Sundays. Lewis said the girl was in really good spirits when he picked her up and when he dropped her off. The last time he saw her, she was just walking away in the direction of the trail. Lewis didn't think any more of it until about 8 p.m. on the 4th when he saw in the newspaper that she was missing. He immediately called the college and alerted them about her disappearance and how he gave her a ride, that he may have been the last one to see her. When Paula got out of Lewis's vehicle, this is where things get a little muddy, and we're relying on potential eyewitnesses. Paula either hitchhiked or walked the rest of the way to the trail, which is in Woodford Hollow. A group of hikers think they saw her walking up the trail as they were walking down to leave. Ernie Whitman, a night watchman, came across who he thinks was Paula around 4 p.m. that Sunday afternoon. Paula asked him which direction she should take to get to the long trail, so he told her. Later, 3 friends of his saw a female hiker crossing a bridge that led to the long trail and nowhere else. Police suspected that she may have cut through that trail and into Bald Mountain, which led back around to the outskirts of Bennington. They saw sneaker footprints in the snow. It hadn't started snowing until late Sunday night, so by then it was freezing and she was not dressed well enough for that kind of weather. Paula supposedly ran into some hikers on her way up, even talking to them for a few minutes. Paula asked them a few questions about the trail, and she kept walking up on a part of the trail that was like a little road. This road is now called Harbor Road, but she may or may not have kept walking into the woods while it was about to get dark. No one has ever confirmed that they saw her while she was on the trail, except the group of hitchhikers she talked to at the beginning of her trek, but it's speculated that she kept going up through Bowles Brook Valley. Paula Jean never made it back from the trail, and her roommate did not know where she was. Being that it was late and snowing, she thought Paula had possibly gone to the library because exams were coming up and maybe she went there to study. Morning came and still no sign of Paula. The college administrators were made aware by Lewis Knapp when he realized she was missing, and they wasted no time putting together a search team to canvass the college campus. When the Bennington County State's Attorney caught wind of what was happening, the county sheriff was asked to come on board to help search for Paula Jean Welden. The following days of searching and asking questions was mostly turning up nothing. One of the hikers that saw Paula that day worked at the Bennington Banner newspaper, and he talked to police and positively identified her as the young woman that he and his group of hikers talked to on December 1st. The search continued for weeks, and Bennington College for a few days closed down. The students and people who worked at the college linked up with the organized searches alongside hundreds of volunteers, family members, National Guard troops, and firefighters who were all searching the ground. There were at least 5 planes searching from above as far as 10 miles up the trail to Glastonbury Mountain. The searchers on the ground bought tons of confetti, and they would drop the confetti everywhere they had searched to make sure they didn't search the same place twice. The long trail branched off into many areas which were searched, and they canvassed Route 9 from Bennington to Brattleboro. On December 5th, a tip came in from a waitress at the Modern Restaurant on Falls River, Pleasant Street, saying that a young woman who fit the description of Paula had been there with a man. Police started going house to house, searching the area. They also went to hotels, bus depots, and railroad stations. The waitress said the man seemed to be no older than 25, and he had been drinking alcohol. The waitress, named Aura, said that she was positive from seeing Paula's picture in the newspaper that it was her at the restaurant on the 2nd of December. When the young man went to pay for their bill, Paula, or the person who at least fit her description, called Aura over to the table and asked how far it was from there to Bennington. The waitress asked her, "Bennington where?" Paula told her Bennington, Vermont, and from there, Aura told her she should go to the bus depot. The young woman asked the waitress where she was, and the waitress told her Fall River. The young woman kept saying she had to get back to Bennington, that she arrived in Fall River with $1,000 and spent all of it. The waitress described to state troopers what the young man looked like: heavy build, light complexion, about 5'8", around 25 years old, intoxicated, and abusive. Who we presume to be Paula was said not to have been drinking, but she was definitely dazed and seemed confused. Now there were major concerns that Paula found a way to take the bus from Fall River or Bennington and may have ended up who knows where. State police in Massachusetts patrolled the highways trying to find Paula, but they never did. Paula's father, William, was staying at Hotel Putnam, and the police kept in touch with him throughout the developments of this lead. Policemen of Fall River were sent out to canvass the area. Another possible clue came from John Proud, who was the manager of a clothing store. He said a man had been there the previous Saturday leading up to Paula's disappearance. The young man matched the description that the waitress had given and was shopping with friends who were talking about going hiking. The young man said he was a student at a school for photography in New Haven, Connecticut. He bought rubber boots, a red and black checkered hat, a few scarves, and a pair of socks. William suspected she may have been with a young man whose name he would not disclose publicly, who went to college with Paula and had expressed interest in her. At this time, there was no effort by police to look into this particular student to see if he was missing as well. The police wanted a more detailed description of the man with Paula at the restaurant before they looked into it. Also on the 5th, around 500 people thoroughly searched for Paula, which turned up nothing yet again. William did say that he was pleased with the search for his daughter that day. Someone who lived in Woodford Hollow had information that added up to another Woodford Hollow resident about a dark maroon car with Connecticut plates that Paula, or someone matching her description, was riding in with a young man. A lot of this information came from newspapers printed on the 5th of December, and clearly a lot was happening at once, and police were reporting a lot of things, and in the same papers there was a column about foul play being suspected as well. The college president, Lewis Webster Jones, thought someone did something to Paula on that trail and hid her body. There was a camp near the trail where a handful of men from New York were staying, and they were questioned. It was discovered that on the morning of December 2nd, they bought tickets for a train to Stamford, Connecticut, where Paula used to live. Allegedly, they told the railroad conductor that they were taking part in a search for a girl. Eventually, they were cleared. 4 days later, there was a $4,000 reward offered for information about Paula Jean's whereabouts. William went back home to Connecticut, where he said, quote, "I'll be available in the event anyone wants to make a ransom attempt." State Attorney William Jerome Jr. said, quote, "We have no evidence to indicate Miss Welden was kidnapped, but the case is so baffling, we have to consider foul play as a strong possibility. Actually, all we know is that she dressed in a red jacket and blue jeans and went for a hike toward Glastonbury Mountain. However, that's where we reach a dead end. So far as we know, she never was seen again." At this point, everything was covered in ice and snow, but Detective Almo Franzoni said they were going to do a search of 2 camps in the area of the Long Trail. The detective stated, quote, "We'll take shovels with us because if there's anything in this new angle, we'll be doing some digging." There was a 49-year-old man who came forward named James Playotes, who worked in a restaurant and said he was positive he sold Paula Jean 4 sandwiches on the morning of the 1st. But her dad said this could not be right. Quote, "Paula never ate sandwiches. She didn't like them. If she bought any, they were not for herself." James said he never told anyone because, quote, Nobody ever asked me. He said she and several other college girls frequented the restaurant a lot, so he knew it was her. There were still no signs of Paula at all 10 days later. During this time, there was no Vermont police organization, and only the state's attorney, the county sheriff, and state investigator Almo Franzoni, who were the ones responsible and in charge of searching out clues. William kept hounding them about getting more people on his daughter's case, and he was not satisfied with the way the investigation was being handled. Governor of Vermont, Mortimer Proctor, was asked to bring in more professional authorities to assist them. Governor Proctor went to Connecticut's Governor Raymond Baldwin and asked him to lend a hand. New York and Connecticut State Police were willing to help. Robert Rundle, the Connecticut State Police detective, and state policewoman Dorothy Scoville were then assigned to Paula's case. Detective Robert and Dorothy began to question everyone who saw or thought they spotted Paula, even all the people who resided along the route she had taken to get to the trail, plus anyone who was just in the area that December afternoon. On the 10th, William told news reporters that his wife collapsed and was under the care of a doctor. William was under a lot of pressure and stress. He said he felt that scientifically trained police should join the investigation. He was adamant that there had to be clues the police were missing. William also expressed that if Paula were in those mountains, she would have been found by now, and he was of the belief that she had been kidnapped and held against her will. 1 week later, on the 16th, William had packed up his daughter's belongings from her dorm room in the back of his Buick coupe and drove away from the place that would become one of Bennington County's saddest mysteries. William said he would never go back to Bennington unless something important happened. State Attorney Jerome told him that he would call him daily to review the latest steps that police were taking with the unfortunate lack of leads and tips that they had to go off of. The game wardens, who knew the woods of the Long Trail very well, were stumped too. They carried out a 5-man search of the woods and found nothing. At this point, more and more people in law enforcement were of the belief that there had to be foul play involved. The way theories were being explored of her simply vanishing into the woods didn't hold water to some of the authorities. They admitted they were up against a stone wall, with all leads so far being chased and debunked or hitting dead ends. Within a year, 18-year-old Paula Jean Welden and another woman, Mitty Rivers, had gone missing in the same vicinity with no explanation or clues. There is one person who I've only seen talked about in less than a handful of places, and that is Fred Gadet, a lumberjack who was claimed to be the last person who saw Paula Welden, according to investigators. He lived on Harbor Road and was in the middle of a spat with his girlfriend when Paula was walking down the road. Fred made a few different statements that don't match up about what happened next. Once he said he sped off in his car in a jealous rage, driving up the travel part of the trail where Paula was going. Another time, he said he stormed off and went to his shack to spend the rest of the evening alone. He eventually became a person of interest in 1946, since his stories kept changing, and when the case was being looked over again in 1952, he was a person of interest yet again. It was reported that Fred told at least 2 people that he knew where Paula was buried. Later, he said it was just bullshit talk and that he made it up. No evidence was ever found that there was a crime committed at all. No body, no evidence, nothing. Paula's parents and many others were really not happy with the way her disappearance was handled by authorities. William even heavily criticized the lack of organization by law enforcement statewide, how local authorities did not have much training when it came to investigating disappearances, and due to those things, the investigation was not operated properly at all, poorly done at best. The Vermont State Police was created by the Vermont legislature a few months after Paula went missing. In January of 1947, Ernest Gibson was Vermont's new governor, and he told the newspapers that he was going to review everything in the case of Paula Jean Welden, which made William very optimistic. Governor Gibson stated, quote, "If there are any loopholes in the investigation, I will do something about it." He wanted a full report about the way the investigation was performed, and should he find anywhere in the report that there was not enough effort put into finding Paula Jean, he would attempt to fix it. There was a new lead out of Quebec. A taxi driver drove a young woman who looked like Paula from a hotel to a railroad station the week of December 3rd. 2 passenger trains were at the station at the time, one going to Montreal, Canada, and the other going to Boston, Massachusetts. Detective Franzoli was on the case, gathering tips and rumors from the area which had not been investigated before. By February 1947, there was not much hope left that Paula Jean was still alive. A private detective, Raymond Schindler, quietly worked on the case for 3 weeks, and he concluded that her disappearance was more than likely foul play and that she may no longer be alive. Further investigation was conducted with Louis Knapp, who authorities think may have been the last person to positively see her. When Louis Knapp dropped Paula off alongside his driveway, he got home that day, and only 3 minutes went by before his daughter went outside to call for her little girl to come in for dinner. They had a clear view of a half-mile stretch of road, and the daughter did not see Paula or anyone else walking. Therefore, police assume she may have been picked up and kidnapped not long after she got out of Louis Knapp's vehicle. Police think she never made it to the long trail at all, even though hikers were sure they saw her. By June of 1947, William Welden had given up all hope that Paula Jean was still alive. Quote, "It is bewildering to one in my position to realize that in this modern day, the state of Vermont is probably no more advanced in the facilities for handling an investigation of this kind than it must have been 100 years ago. If my daughter has been murdered, and I feel she has been, there is consolation in the fact that her dying has spurred Vermonters into the establishment of a new state police organization which may serve to protect the lives and welfare of their own children. It is quite clear now that some of the most logical and vital elements were given no more than a cursory glance. These matters, if investigated promptly after December, might have answered the question that people of the nation are asking today. What has become of Paula Welden?" There was a possibility that Paula was still alive, but that belief was falling apart, with authorities having a very strong belief now that she had been killed, and at this point, they were looking for a body. If her body was found, it would be likely that more than one person knew something, and one day their theory would be corroborated. The reward for finding Paula was up to $7,000, which would expire on July 1st. Students told police in November of 1947 that in the weeks leading up to her going missing, Paula seemed very depressed and not her bubbly self. 1 year later, a 25-year-old named Carl Raquel was being held by Cambridge, Massachusetts police. He once lived in Vermont, but was now in jail for killing a man for 50 cents, assault, and robbery. When the police searched his apartment, Carl had many newspaper clippings about Paula Welden, as well as pictures of her. The commissioner was alerted, and he sent commanders of Montpelier and Bennington to Cambridge, Massachusetts to question Carl to see if he had an alibi and if it checked out. Police already feared that this would lead nowhere, and it didn't. On December 4th, 1950, something happened. A young woman ordered a pair of shoes and gave the name P. Welden. She said she would be back for the shoes in about an hour or so. The police were notified and fled to the store. They were there to greet her when she walked back in. It was Paula's younger sister, Pamela Welden. She was so grateful that authorities still cared and were on alert for any signs of her sister. She said, "I wish I could have been Paula, but it was just me." To no avail, Paula Jean was not found, and there were no clues at all to assist anyone about where she could be. Paula did have a diary, but it was nowhere to be found. Law enforcement started to become skeptical if anyone who claimed to see her, give her rides, talk to her on the trail, seen in restaurants, etc., were even really Paula. Nobody really knows for sure. After 7 years of being missing, Paula had to be declared legally dead under state laws in Connecticut. Police said they would not close the case. By then, over the last 10 years, many other people had gone missing in this area, which was called the Bennington Triangle. These are the theories that have floated around for years about what could have happened to Paula Jean Welden. You can let me know which one seems most plausible to you. Some people think that Paula decided to run away and start a whole new life. Along with that, or separately, maybe she met up with a secret love interest and they ran off together and got married. Some suspect Paula's father was involved in her disappearance since they were in such a feud. Adding to that, after the waitress came forward about spotting her in Massachusetts, William vanished for 36 hours without telling anyone. I never found an explanation about where he went or why, but maybe there's a listener out there who knows the answer to where he was during those hours. I may have just missed it, but if you have the answer, please reach out. Some speculate that she may have gotten injured on the trail and suffered amnesia and either passed away somewhere where she was never found, or someone saw her in this possible condition and picked her up. There are even more macabre theories that she may have taken her own life, that she had been kidnapped, or even murdered. The place Paula went missing, as I mentioned, is also called the Bennington Triangle, since it was like the Bermuda Triangle in a sense. And in this triangle, between 1945 and 1950, there had been a lot of other odd cases where people seemed to vanish into thin air. There are other triangles in the US like this as well, and there really is no explanation for it. These triangles are complete mysteries, and it's as if these people just disappear into another dimension. Not only are there disappearances that cannot be explained, but there have also been UFO sightings and cryptid sightings. There are some people who absolutely believe that the Bennington Triangle is cursed. If Paula is out there somewhere today, still alive, she will be 95 years old later this year. And that is the strange case of Paula Jean Welden. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. Until next time, stay safe and take care.